Jake Morrison opened his eyes to white walls and soft blue light. His head hurt a little, like he had slept wrong. He sat up slowly and looked around. The room was small and empty, except for a bed that felt too firm. Everything looked clean, too clean, like a hospital, but wrong somehow. The last thing he remembered was walking to his car after his shift at the hospital. He worked as a paramedic in Denver. It had been a long day. Then there was a bright light, and now he was here. Jake stood up and walked to the wall. It was smooth and warm under his hand. No doors that he could see, no windows, just walls that curved gently into a ceiling that glowed with that weird blue light. "Okay," he said out loud. "This is either a really elaborate prank or I'm in serious trouble." He pressed his hand against different parts of the wall, looking for a door or button. Nothing happened. He was about to try yelling when part of the wall suddenly became clear like glass. On the other side stood 3 figures. They were not human. Jake took a step back, his heart racing. The figures were tall and thin, almost fragile-looking. Their skin was pale and smooth, with patterns that seemed to glow softly in different colors. They had large eyes, no nose that he could see, and small mouths. They wore clothes that looked like they were made of liquid metal. One of them touched something Jake couldn't see, and a voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. "The specimen is conscious," the voice said. It sounded flat, emotionless. "Vital signs indicate extreme stress, but physical responses are minimal, unusual." Jake forced himself to breathe slowly. In his job, he had learned to stay calm in crazy situations. This definitely qualified as crazy. "Specimen," Jake said. "I'm a person. My name is Jake Morrison. Who are you and where am I?" The 3 figures looked at each other. They seemed surprised. "It speaks a complex language," another voice said, "and it addressed us directly. The preliminary data suggested limited cognitive function." "Your preliminary data was wrong," Jake said. He crossed his arms. "I'm a paramedic. I help people for a living. Now, are you going to tell me what's going on, or do I need to start making noise until someone with answers shows up?" More silence from the strange beings. Then one of them, the tallest, stepped closer to the clear wall. "I am Dr. Velrith of the Crix Collective," the voice said. "You have been brought aboard our research vessel for study. Your species has been observed from a distance, but this is first contact with a live specimen. You will not be harmed, but you cannot leave." Jake processed this. Aliens. He had been abducted by aliens. Part of his brain wanted to panic. The other part, the part that had handled car crashes and heart attacks, stayed focused. "Study?" Jake said. "Like a lab rat." "We do not understand that reference," Dr. Velrith said. "You are a representative sample of your species. We will observe you, conduct tests, and gather data. This is standard procedure for pre-integration species." "Pre-integration?" Jake asked. "You mean you're deciding whether humans are good enough to meet you officially?" Dr. Velrith's skin patterns shifted to a darker color. "Your understanding is crude, but essentially correct. And you thought kidnapping someone was the way to go," Jake said. He laughed even though nothing was funny. "You know what? This is insane. But I'm here, and you're not going to let me go, so we might as well be civilized about it. I need water, food, and something to do. I also need to use a bathroom. Do you have bathrooms?" The aliens looked confused again. Dr. Velrith touched some controls, and images appeared in the air between them. Pictures of human bodies, labeled in a language Jake didn't recognize. "We have studied your biological needs," Dr. Velrith said. "Facilities will be provided." Part of the wall opened, revealing a small room. Jake could see something that looked sort of like a toilet and a sink. Not perfect, but it would work. "Great," Jake said. "Now, about that food?" Over the next few hours, Jake learned a lot. The aliens brought him something they called nutrition paste. It tasted like cardboard mixed with soap, but it filled his stomach. They showed him how to use the controls in his cell to adjust the temperature and light. They watched him constantly through the clear walls. Jake tried to stay calm, but it was hard. He was millions of miles from home, surrounded by aliens who saw him as a lab experiment. Every time he thought about his family, his friends, his life, his chest got tight. But he didn't let them see that. He smiled. He made jokes, even though the aliens didn't understand them. He did push-ups and stretches to stay busy. He kept talking, asking questions, treating this like a bizarre medical call. On the third day, a new alien came to observe him. This one was smaller, with skin patterns that shifted between blue and green. The patterns moved faster than the others, almost nervous. "This is my colleague Liz," Dr. Velrith's voice said through the speaker. "She specializes in behavioral psychology. She will be monitoring your emotional responses." Jake looked at Liz. She was staring at him with those large eyes, her head tilted slightly. "Hello, Liz," Jake said. He smiled. "Nice to meet you, I guess." Liz's skin patterns flared bright yellow for just a second before fading back to blue-green. She stepped closer to the wall. "You are not afraid," Liz said. Her voice was different from Dr. Velrith's. Softer, more curious. "Your biology shows fear responses, but your behavior does not match." "Why?" Jake thought about how to explain. "I am afraid," he admitted. "But I learned a long time ago that panic doesn't help. You stay calm. You assess the situation. You deal with what's in front of you. Fear is okay. Letting it control you isn't." Liz's patterns shifted again, this time to pale gold. "That is remarkable," she said quietly. "Most species we study cannot separate emotion from action. You can feel fear and ignore it." "Not ignore it," Jake said. "Work with it. Use it. Fear keeps you alert. It's a tool, not a prison." Liz stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something the other aliens hadn't done. She touched her hand to the wall, fingers spread, like she was trying to reach through it. "I would like to understand that," she said. "Will you teach me?" Jake blinked. Then he stepped forward and placed his hand on the wall opposite hers. Through the clear surface, their hands almost touched. "Sure," Jake said. "I've got nothing but time, apparently." Liz's skin glowed warm gold, and Jake realized with surprise that she was smiling at him in her own way. Behind her, Dr. Velrith's patterns flashed dark red, but Jake wasn't looking at him anymore. He was looking at Liz, and for the first time since waking up in this cell, he didn't feel quite so alone. 3 weeks had passed since Jake woke up on the alien ship. 3 weeks of tests, observations, and questions. The Crick scientists had tested his blood, his strength, his reflexes, and his patience. Jake had cooperated with most of it, but he was getting tired. What made it bearable was Liz. She came to see him every day, sometimes for official observations, sometimes just to talk. She asked him questions about Earth, about humans, about everything. Jake found himself looking forward to her visits. Her skin patterns were easier to read now. Gold meant happy or curious. Blue-green was calm. Dark red, which he saw on Dr. Velrith a lot, meant angry or worried. Today, Liz arrived carrying a container. Her patterns were bright yellow with streaks of gold. "I brought you something," she said through the speaker. The wall opened slightly, and she pushed the container through. Jake opened it and found real food inside. Not the terrible paste, but something that looked like fruit. It was purple and smelled sweet. "This is from my home world," Liz said. "I thought you might enjoy variety in your nutrition intake." Jake bit into it. The fruit was juicy and tasted like a mix of strawberries and vanilla. It was the best thing he had tasted in weeks. "Liz." "This is amazing," he said, grinning at her. "Thank you." Her patterns flared gold again, brighter than before. Jake was starting to realize that happened when he smiled at her. "The research team analyzed your food requirements," Liz said, speaking quickly like she did when she was excited. "They discovered something unexpected. Your homeworld, Earth, it is classified as a Class 9 death world." Jake swallowed the fruit. "A what?" "A death world," Liz repeated. "Planets with extreme conditions that produce highly resilient life forms. Earth's gravity is 1.7 times standard. Your atmosphere has high oxygen content, which is corrosive to most species. Your planet has extreme weather, dangerous predators, and toxic plants. Most species would die there within hours." Jake looked down at his hands. "Huh," he said. "I mean, yeah, Earth can be dangerous, but it's also beautiful. We've got mountains and oceans and forests. We've got seasons and storms and stars at night." "The research team is frightened," Liz said quietly. "They realize that humans are not prey species. You are predators. Your eyes face forward for tracking. Your endurance is exceptional. You heal rapidly from injuries. And you think strategically even under stress." Jake set down the fruit. "Is that why Dr. Velrith has been avoiding me? He's scared?" "My father does not understand humans," Liz said. "He sees only data, numbers, threat assessments. He does not see—" She paused, her patterns shifting to soft blue. "He does not see what I see." "And what do you see?" Jake asked. Liz pressed her hand against the wall again, their usual gesture. "I see someone who makes jokes when he is afraid, who asks about my day before telling me about his own, who thank the cleaning staff even though they cannot understand your language. You are strong, yes, but you are also kind." Jake felt his chest tighten, but in a good way this time. He put his hand up to match hers. "Your father is right about one thing," Jake said. "Humans can be dangerous. We've fought wars. We can be violent. But we're also the species that stopped on a busy road to save a family of ducks. We write poetry. We make music. We try to be better than we were yesterday." "I wish my father could understand that," Liz said. Before Jake could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. The lights changed from blue to red. Liz stepped back from the wall, her patterns flashing to dark purple. "What's happening?" Jake shouted over the noise. "Hull breach in Section 7, a voice announced in the Crick's language. Jake had been picking up words here and there. "All personnel evacuate to safe zones." Liz turned to run, but then she stopped. She looked back at Jake, and he saw fear in her large eyes. "The safe zones," she said. "This section is not a safe zone. The cell's emergency systems are offline for testing." Jake's paramedic training kicked in immediately. "Can you open this cell?" "I do not have authorization," Liz said, but her hands were already moving over the controls. "Father would never approve. This violates every protocol." "Liz," Jake said firmly, "open the door." She hit one final control, and the wall dissolved. Jake stepped out into the corridor for the first time in weeks. The ship was shaking. Smoke was coming from somewhere nearby. "Which way to Section 7?" Jake asked. "You want to go toward the breach?" Liz's patterns flashed white, which Jake guessed meant shock. "That is insane." "That's where people are hurt," Jake said. "Come on." He grabbed her hand without thinking. Her skin was warm and smooth, and he felt her patterns pulse under his palm. But there was no time to think about that. He ran toward the emergency, pulling her with him. Section 7 was chaos. 3 Crick's crew members were on the ground, not moving. 2 more were trapped under a collapsed panel. The breach was small, sealed by an emergency force field, but the room was filled with gas that smelled toxic. Jake assessed the situation in seconds. He ran to the trapped crew members. The panel was heavy, made of the same material as the walls. He grabbed it and lifted. His muscles screamed, but the panel moved. On his homeworld, with Earth's stronger gravity, he had lifted heavier things. "Pull them out!" he shouted at Liz. She stared at him for a moment, watching him hold something that should have required 3 cricks to move. Then she snapped into action, dragging the injured crew members to safety. Jake set down the panel and moved to the 3 unconscious cricks. He checked for breathing, for heartbeat. 2 were alive but hurt. The 3rd was not breathing. He had never performed CPR on an alien before, but biology was biology. He positioned his hands on the Crix's chest and started compressions. He counted in his head, keeping rhythm. After 30 compressions, he gave rescue breaths, hoping the Crix respiratory system worked similarly to humans. "What are you doing?" Liz cried. "That is Dr. Mirveth, head of engineering. You are attacking him." "I'm saving him," Jake shouted back. He continued compressions. "His heart stopped. This is CPR. Just trust me." 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Jake's arms burned. The toxic gas was making his eyes water and his throat burn. He ignored it. On the 4th cycle, Dr. Mirveth gasped and started breathing on his own. "Impossible," Liz whispered. "He was dead. You brought him back from death." "Not dead," Jake corrected, breathing hard. "Just not breathing. There's a difference. Now help me get everyone out of here before that force field fails." Together, they moved all 5 injured cricks to the medical bay. By the time they arrived, Jake's throat felt like fire and his vision was blurry from the gas. But everyone was alive. Captain Thalos, the ship's commander, arrived at the medical bay moments later. She was older than the other cricks, her patterns a steady silver color. "Explain," she said, looking at Jake. Liz stepped forward. "The human saved them, Captain. He lifted the collapsed panel alone. He restarted Dr. Mirveth's cardiac function using a human medical technique. He exposed himself to toxic gas to ensure everyone reached safety." Captain Thalos studied Jake for a long moment. "You risked your life for my crew. You who are held here against your will." Jake coughed, his throat still burning. "They needed help," he said simply. "That's enough reason." The captain's patterns shifted to bright gold, the same color Jake associated with Liz's happiness. "I see," she said quietly. "I see now what Liz has been reporting." "You are not what we expected, Jake Morrison." Dr. Velrith arrived then, his patterns flashing angry red. "Liz, you released the specimen. This is an enormous breach of protocol. He could have escaped, could have harmed the crew, could have—" "He saved 5 lives, Father," Liz interrupted. Her patterns were gold mixed with red, determined. "While you were worried about protocols, he was being heroic." "Heroic?" Dr. Velrith's voice rose. "He is a predator from a death world. This changes nothing. It only proves humans are dangerous." "Dangerous to threats," Captain Thalos said quietly, "but protective toward others. That is not a simple predator, Dr. Velrith. That is something far more complex." Jake leaned against the wall, exhausted. His eyes met Liz's, and she smiled at him. Actually smiled. Her small mouth curving upward in a very human expression. "Thank you," she mouthed silently. Jake nodded. Despite everything, despite being trapped millions of miles from home, he smiled back. The cell was different now. After Jake saved the crew members, Captain Thalos had ordered changes. The small white room was replaced with what the cricks called an enriched habitat. It was bigger, with furniture that almost fit a human body, a window showing stars, and a tablet loaded with information about the Galactic Collective. Jake spent his days reading about the hundreds of alien species, their worlds, their cultures. At night, he watched videos of Earth that Liz had downloaded for him. Ocean waves, thunderstorms, his sister's wedding that he had missed. That last one made his chest ache. But the best part of his new situation was that Liz could visit him properly now. She had been officially assigned as his cultural liaison, which meant she was supposed to teach him about the collective and prepare him for eventual release. The Ethics Council, Jake had learned, was demanding his freedom. Holding sentient beings for study was illegal. Dr. Velrith was fighting it, claiming the research was too important, but he was losing support. Today, Liz arrived carrying something in her arms. Her patterns were excited yellow gold. "I brought you something from the recreation database," she said. It was a guitar. Well, an alien approximation of a guitar. The shape was close enough. "They can make these?" Jake asked, taking it carefully. "The ship has fabricators that can create objects based on database patterns," Liz explained. "This design was in the Earth cultural files. Does it work?" Jake strummed it experimentally. The sound was almost right, a little too bright, but close. He adjusted the tuning by ear and played a simple chord progression. Liz's patterns flared so bright he almost laughed. "What is that?" she breathed. "That sound?" "Music," Jake said. "This is a very basic song. Here on Earth, we play music for fun, for celebrations, for comfort. Every culture has its own styles." "Play more," Liz said. She sat down on the floor, completely forgetting her usual formal posture. Jake played the only complete song he remembered from start to finish, an old folk song his grandfather taught him. His voice was rough from disuse, but he sang anyway. When he finished, he looked up to find Liz staring at him with patterns he had never seen before, swirls of gold and silver and soft blue. "That was beautiful," she said quietly. "It made me feel, I do not have words, happy and sad together. How is that possible?" "That's what good music does," Jake said. "It makes you feel things you didn't know you could feel." Liz moved closer, sitting beside him instead of across from him. This was new. The Cricks normally kept distance between themselves and others. "Jake," she said, "may I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Do you hate us for taking you from your home?" Jake set down the guitar. He thought about lying, about being diplomatic. But Liz deserved honesty. "I hate being trapped," he said. "I hate that my family thinks I'm dead or missing. I hate that I don't know if I'll ever see Earth again. But do I hate you personally? No. You didn't make this choice. And you've been kind to me when you didn't have to be." "My father believes humans are too dangerous for the collective," Liz said. "He thinks if humanity joins, they will dominate other species through force. He took you to prove that theory." "And what do you think?" Jake asked. Liz's patterns shifted to deep blue, the color of serious thought. "I think humans are dangerous, yes. But I have watched you for weeks. You could have hurt me many times. When I released you during the emergency, you could have escaped or taken hostages. Instead, you ran toward danger to help strangers. That is not the behavior of a simple predator." "Humans are complicated," Jake said. "We're capable of terrible things. But we're also capable of amazing kindness. We're not one thing. We're all the things." "All the things," Liz repeated. "I like that." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Liz said something that surprised him. "I have never told anyone this, but I find you fascinating, not as a specimen, as a person. Your thought patterns are so different from mine. Your emotional range is vast. When you smile, your whole face changes. When you laugh, it is so loud and unrestrained. Cricks do not laugh. We barely smile. You experience life at a volume we cannot imagine." Jake felt his face grow warm. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "It is a wonderful thing," Liz said. Her hand moved toward his, hesitated, then gently touched his fingers. "It makes me want to be louder, too." Jake's heart beat faster. He turned his hand over and held hers properly. Her skin was warm and the patterns pulsed under his touch. "Liz," he said carefully, Are you flirting with me?" Her patterns went bright gold, and she made a sound that might have been a laugh. I have been flirting with you for weeks, Jake Morrison. How did you not notice? I thought you were just being nice, Jake said. You're an alien. I didn't want to assume. I thought maybe hand-touching was like a handshake for your species. Hand-touching is intimate for cricks, Liz said. We only do it with family or potential mates. I have been holding your hand for weeks. I brought you gifts. I changed my schedule to see you more. I downloaded Earth videos for you. How much more obvious could I be? Jake started laughing. Really laughing. The kind that came from his belly and echoed in the room. Liz watched him with those large eyes, her patterns dancing with gold and yellow, and colors he was sure meant affection. I'm an idiot, Jake said when he could breathe again. You are not an idiot, Liz said firmly. You are brave and kind, and you make me feel things I have never felt. You make me want to see Earth, to experience your loud, intense, wonderful world. You make me want to be brave, too. Jake squeezed her hand gently. For the record, I think you're amazing. You're curious and smart, and you actually listen when people talk. You've made this whole nightmare bearable, more than bearable. Some days talking with you is the best part of my day. Liz's patterns were so bright now that they lit up the dim room. Really? Really, Jake confirmed. She leaned closer to him, her head tilting in that curious way. On Earth, when two people have these feelings, what do? Well, Jake said, his heart racing, sometimes they go on dates, share meals, talk, get to know each other. And sometimes, if both people want to, they kiss. Kiss, Liz repeated. I have seen this in the Earth videos, pressing mouth to mouth. It looks strange. It's actually nice, Jake said, but only if both people want to do it. I want to try, Liz said immediately. Then she paused. But I am uncertain of the technique. Will you show me? Jake felt like his heart might explode. This was insane. He was millions of miles from home, held prisoner on an alien ship, and he was about to kiss an alien woman who made his heart race every time she walked into the room. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind. She did not move away. He pressed his lips gently to hers. Her mouth was smaller than a human's, softer, and her skin tasted faintly sweet. The kiss lasted only a moment. But when they pulled apart, Liz's patterns were cycling through colors he had never seen, like fireworks on her skin. Oh, she whispered. Oh, that was... Good, Jake asked hopefully. Wonderful, Liz said. Can we do it again? Jake grinned. Absolutely. They kissed again, longer this time, and Jake felt like he was falling. This was crazy. This was impossible. This was the last thing he expected to happen when he woke up in that white cell months ago. When they finally pulled apart, Liz rested her forehead against his. When you are released, she said quietly, I am going to request assignment to Earth. I want to see your homeworld. I want to meet your family. I want to understand everything about you and your species. I'd like that, Jake said. Though I should warn you, Earth's gravity is going to be hard on you, and my sister will probably ask a million questions. I do not care about gravity, Liz said, and I enjoy questions. They sat together, holding hands, making plans for a future that seemed impossible but felt absolutely right. Outside the habitat window, the stars stretched endlessly, the same stars that shone over Earth, the same stars that had brought them together in the strangest way possible. Neither of them noticed Dr. Velrith standing in the observation corridor, watching them with dark red patterns of anger and fear. The message came through official channels 3 days after Jake's first kiss with Liz. The Galactic Council wanted to see him, in person. They would meet in 2 weeks at the Central Station, the massive hub where all collective business was conducted. Jake stood before Captain Thelos and several other senior officers as they explained what would happen. The Council will decide humanity's status, Captain Thelos said. Her patterns were neutral silver. You will be asked to represent your species. Dr. Velrith will also present his research findings. His biased research findings, Liz said sharply. She stood beside Jake, her patterns flashing red. Father has manipulated the data to make humans appear more dangerous than they are. That is a serious accusation, one of the other officers said. It is a true accusation, Liz replied. I have reviewed his reports. He includes data about human violence and warfare, but excludes context about human cooperation, art, medicine, and peacekeeping. He shows that humans are predators, but ignores that they are also empaths who form bonds with other species. His research is incomplete by design. The officer's patterns shifted uncomfortably. Why would Dr. Velrith do this? Because he is afraid, Liz said quietly. He fears change. He fears that humanity will disrupt the collective, so he is trying to prevent their entry before it begins. Captain Thelos studied Jake carefully. And you, Jake Morrison, what will you say to the Council? Jake had been thinking about this since he learned about the hearing. I'll tell them the truth. Humans aren't perfect. We've made mistakes, big ones, but we're trying to be better. We explore space because we want to meet others, to learn, to connect. We're not looking to conquer, we're looking to belong. Pretty words, the officer said. But Dr. Velrith will show evidence of Earth's wars, violence, environmental damage. How will you answer those charges? By not denying them, Jake said. Yes, we've fought wars. Yes, we've hurt our planet, but we've also ended wars. We've created international laws. We've worked together to solve global problems. We're not static. We grow. We change. That's what makes us human. The officers exchanged looks. Captain Thelos nodded slowly. That may be enough, or it may not. The Council is divided on the human question. Some species fear you, others are curious. The decision could go either way. 2 weeks later, Jake stood in the largest room he had ever seen. The council chamber was a vast sphere with floating platforms for each member species. Hundreds of aliens of dozens of different types watched him from above. Some were like the Cricks, tall and thin. Others were massive and scaled. Some were small and furry. Some did not look biological at all. Jake wore clothes the Cricks had made for him, simple and clean. Liz stood nearby in the observer section, her patterns cycling nervously between blue and gold. Dr. Velrith spoke first. His presentation was professional and damning. He showed videos of human wars, statistics about violence, graphs about environmental destruction. He presented data about human physical capabilities compared to other species. He concluded by calling humans an aggressive predator species with insufficient social development for collective integration. When he finished, the council chamber filled with concerned murmurs. Then it was Jake's turn. He walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at the hundreds of faces watching him. His heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady. Dr. Velrith is right about some things, Jake began. Humans are predators. We evolved hunting and being hunted. We're physically strong compared to many species here. We have fought wars throughout our history. These are facts. He paused, making eye contact with as many council members as he could. But those facts don't tell the whole story. Dr. Velrith didn't mention that the same species that fought wars also created the Red Cross, an organization dedicated to helping wounded people regardless of which side they fight for. He didn't mention that we've formed a global alliance dedicated to preventing wars. He didn't mention that we've landed robots on other planets just to learn, not to conquer. Jake pulled out the tablet Liz had given him. He projected images into the center of the chamber. This is a human saving a cat from a flooded river, he said. The video played, showing a man wading into dangerous water to rescue a frightened animal. This is humans forming a chain to pull a beached whale back to the ocean, This is a human child sharing his lunch with a homeless stranger. These are also facts about humanity. More images appeared. Art galleries, hospitals, scientists from different nations working together, musicians performing for charity. Parents teaching children to be kind. We're not perfect, Jake continued. We're messy and loud and we make mistakes, but we're also the species that domesticated wolves and turned them into companions. We're the species that looks at the stars and dreams of meeting you, not conquering you. We write stories about friendship between different species because that's what we want. Connection, understanding, family. He pulled up one more image. It was a photo taken by a Mars rover showing Earth as a tiny blue dot in the vastness of space. This is our home, Jake said quietly. One small planet in an enormous universe. We know we're tiny. We know we're new to all of this. But we want to be part of something bigger. We want to learn from you, share with you, grow with you. Yes, we're dangerous, but we're also loyal, creative, and hopeful. We're survivors who choose to be more than just survivors. He turned, looking directly at Dr. Velrith. Dr. Velrith took me from my home to prove humans were a threat. But I didn't threaten anyone. I helped injured crew members. I made friends. I fell in love with his daughter. If humans are so dangerous, why did I do those things? Why didn't I fight back, try to escape, hurt anyone? The chamber was silent. Because humans are capable of violence doesn't mean we choose it, Jake said. We're capable of kindness too. And when we have a choice, most of us choose kindness. A council member spoke, their voice translated through the chamber speakers. Dr. Velrith, is it true you manipulated your research data? Dr. Velrith's patterns flashed dark red. I presented the most relevant information for threat assessment. You presented incomplete information, Liss's voice rang out. She had stood up in the observer section. I am Dr. Velrith's daughter and a xenopsychologist. I observed Jake Morrison for months. Father's reports excluded over 60% of my behavioral data because it showed positive human traits. He cherry-picked information to support his predetermined conclusion. The council members murmured among themselves. This is a serious ethical breach, Dr. Velrith, the council leader said. Your research will be reviewed. In the meantime, we must make our decision. Another council member spoke. I have a question for Jake Morrison. Your species formed emotional bonds with domesticated predators. You called them companions. Is this common? Very common, Jake said. We keep dogs, cats, birds, even reptiles as pets. We form families with them. We love them. Fascinating, the council member said. Our species finds this impossible to understand. How do you bond with beings so different from yourselves? We look for the things we have in common instead of focusing on differences, Jake said. Dogs are loyal. Cats are independent but affectionate. Birds sing. These are things we can understand, relate to, love. We don't need someone to be exactly like us to care about them. The council leader spoke. The council will now deliberate. Jake Morrison, you will wait in the holding area. The decision will be announced within the standard cycle. Jake was led to a small waiting room. Liss was there within minutes, having somehow gotten permission to join him. You were amazing, she said. Her patterns bright gold. She grabbed his hands. You spoke with such honesty, such passion. They have to see the truth now. I don't know, Jake said. He felt exhausted. Your father made a good case, too. Fear is powerful. So is hope, Liss said firmly. And you gave them hope. They waited for 6 hours. Finally, Captain Thalos came to get them. The council has reached a decision, she said. They returned to the council chamber. Jake's hands were shaking. Liss held one tightly. The council leader spoke. After careful consideration, the Galactic Collective has decided to extend an invitation to humanity. You will be granted provisional membership status. A delegation will be sent to Earth to begin formal first contact procedures. Jake Morrison will be returned to his home world with our apologies for his abduction and with the offer of serving as a liaison between humanity and the collective. Jake felt like he could not breathe. They said yes. Humanity was going to meet the galaxy. However, the council leader continued, Dr. Velrith's actions cannot go unaddressed. Kidnapping a sentient being and falsifying research are crimes under collective law. He will face disciplinary proceedings. Dr. Velrith's patterns flashed furious red. You are making a mistake. Humans are dangerous. This proves nothing except that they are good manipulators. You will regret this. Father, stop, Liss pleaded. But Dr. Velrith had already turned and left the chamber, his patterns dark with rage. Jake and Liss looked at each other. They should have been celebrating. But all Jake could see was the pain in Liss's eyes as she watched her father leave. I'm sorry, Jake said quietly. Do not apologize, Liss said. You did nothing wrong. My father, he will need time. Will you still come to Earth? Jake asked. Even with everything that's happened? Liss smiled, and her patterns blazed gold. Especially because of everything that's happened. I want to see the world that made you who you are, and I want to help humanity join the collective properly, if you will have me. Always, Jake said. He pulled her close and kissed her in front of the entire Galactic Council, and he did not care who saw. The transport ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, and Jake pressed his face against the window like a child. 4 months had passed since he was taken from the parking lot in Denver. 4 months that felt like a lifetime. It's so blue, Liss whispered beside him. Her patterns were shifting rapidly between colors Jake had learned meant amazement and fear. The images did not do it justice. That's the ocean, Jake said, pointing. And there, those white patches, those are clouds, real clouds made of water. And look, there's land, North America. I'm almost home. The ship landed in a designated area outside Denver. The government had been preparing for this moment since the collective made contact 3 weeks ago. There were barriers, cameras, and what looked like 1,000 people waiting. Are you ready? Captain Thalos asked. She had volunteered to personally return Jake to Earth. Your species is about to learn they are not alone in the universe. This will be remembered forever. No pressure, Jake muttered, but he was smiling. The ship's door opened, and Jake stepped onto Earth for the first time in months. The gravity hit him immediately, familiar and heavy and absolutely perfect. The air smelled like home. Like dust and plants and pollution and everything wonderful. His sister was the first to reach him. She broke through the barriers and ran, and Jake caught her as she crashed into him, both of them crying and laughing. You're alive, she sobbed. You're alive. We thought you were dead. We had a funeral. Mom wouldn't stop crying. Where were you? It's a long story, Jake said, holding her tight. I'll tell you everything. I promise. Then his parents were there, and his friends, and Jake was surrounded by everyone he loved. He tried to explain, tried to introduce them to Liss, but words kept failing because he was too busy being home. Finally, the officials stepped in. There were statements to make, procedures to follow. Jake stood at a podium with Captain Thalos beside him and explained to the world what had happened. He had been taken by aliens. The Galactic Collective existed. Humanity was invited to join. It was time for Earth to become part of something bigger. The questions came fast and loud. Were the aliens dangerous? What did they want? Why should humanity trust them? Because they brought me home, Jake said simply. They realized they made a mistake, and they corrected it. They could have kept me. They could have ignored their own laws, but they didn't. That tells me they're people we can work with. Liss spoke next, her voice translated through a device. Humanity fascinates the collective. Your emotional capacity, your creativity, your ability to form bonds across species barriers, these are rare gifts. We want to learn from you as much as you will learn from us. This is not invasion. This is invitation. The press conference lasted for hours. When it finally ended, Jake took Liz to meet his family properly. His mother stared at Liz's glowing skin patterns. His father kept asking technical questions about the ship. His sister pulled Jake aside. "Are you dating an alien?" she whispered loudly. "Yes," Jake said. "Is that okay?" His sister looked at Liz, who was patiently explaining Crick's biology to their mother while her patterns cycled through friendly golds and blues. "She came all the way to Earth for you," his sister said. "She looks at you like you hung the moon. And you smile more when she's near you. So yeah, it's okay. It's weird, but it's okay." Over the next weeks, Jake helped Liz adjust to Earth. She struggled with the gravity, needing a support harness to move comfortably. The sun was too bright for her eyes, requiring special filters. The smells and sounds of Earth overwhelmed her constantly, but she loved it anyway. Jake took her to the mountains. She was terrified of the height, but amazed by the view. He took her to a coffee shop, where she tried hot chocolate and decided it was the best thing the universe had ever created. He took her to meet his niece, who declared Liz a real-life fairy and made her a crown of flowers. At night, they sat on Jake's apartment balcony and watched the stars together. "That one," Jake said, pointing. "That bright one. That's probably close to where your homeworld is." "It seems impossibly far," Liz said quietly. Her patterns were soft blue, sad. "Do you regret coming here?" Jake asked. "Never," Liz said immediately. She took his hand. "But I miss my father. He will not answer my communications. The council placed him on probation for his actions. His reputation is damaged, and it is partially my fault. I testified against him." "You told the truth," Jake said gently. "That's not the same as testifying against him." "He does not see it that way," Liz said. "To him, I chose a human over my own family." "You chose what was right," Jake corrected. "That's different." They sat in silence for a while. Then Liz said, "Tell me more about Earth. Tell me something that makes you love this dangerous, impossible world." Jake thought about it. "Once, when I was working as a paramedic, we got a call about a car accident. Bad one. When we arrived, there were already people there helping. A teacher, a construction worker, a teenager, a retired nurse. They didn't know each other. They just stopped because someone needed help. That's humanity. We're strangers who become family in moments of crisis." "That is beautiful," Liz said. "That's Earth," Jake said. 2 months after Jake's return, the official delegation from the collective arrived. Representatives from 20 species came to Earth to begin integration talks. Jake served as a human liaison, helping both sides understand each other. It was during one of these meetings that Dr. Velrith arrived. Jake was in the conference center when he saw him. The Crick scientist looked smaller somehow, his patterns muted and gray. He stood in the doorway, clearly uncertain. "Dr. Velrith," Jake said carefully, "I didn't know you were coming." "I was not invited," Dr. Velrith said. His voice was quiet. "But I had to come. I had to see her. I had to see you." "Liz is in the observation room," Jake said. "She'll want to see you." "Will she?" Dr. Velrith's patterns flashed sad blue. "I have been a poor father. I allowed fear to control me. I hurt her. I hurt you. I hurt my own research integrity. The council was right to sanction me." Jake studied the alien who had abducted him, who had tried to keep humanity out of the collective. He should have been angry. Part of him was. But he also saw a person who had made mistakes and was trying to fix them. "Come on," Jake said. "Let's go find Liz." They found her reviewing data in a side room. When she saw her father, she froze. Her patterns went completely neutral, unreadable. "Daughter," Dr. Velrith said, I came to apologize. I was wrong. About humans. About you. About everything. What changed your mind? Liz asked. Her voice was cold. I watched the press conference, Dr. Velrith said. I watched humans react to learning about alien life. Some were afraid. Some were excited. But most were curious. They wanted to learn. They asked questions. They tried to understand. Just like you said they would. He moved closer to Liz, his patterns shifting to sad blue. I also watched footage of the past 2 months. I saw Jake Morrison introducing you to his family. I saw humans staring at you with wonder, not fear. I saw children asking to touch your skin to see the patterns. I saw you laughing at human jokes and trying human food and experiencing joy I have never seen in you before. Liz's patterns started to shift, warming slightly. I was wrong, Dr. Velrith continued. Humans are dangerous, but they are dangerous the way fire is dangerous. Fire can destroy, but it also warms, lights, and brings people together. Humans have that same energy, that same intensity. I was so afraid of the destruction that I could not see the warmth. You hurt me, Father, Liz said quietly. You tried to destroy something beautiful because you were afraid. I know, Dr. Velrith said, and I am sorry. I do not expect forgiveness. I only wanted you to know that I see clearly now. Jake Morrison is a good person. He makes you happy. And if he makes you happy, then I will support that, even if it means my daughter loves someone from across the galaxy. Liz was quiet for a long moment. Then her patterns shifted to soft gold, and she stepped forward and embraced her father, something Crix rarely did. I love you, Father, she said. Even when you are foolish. I love you too, daughter, Dr. Velrith said. Even when you are correct and I am wrong. Jake watched the reunion, feeling his own eyes get wet. Liz reached out and pulled him into the embrace, and suddenly Jake was part of a Crix family moment, which felt strange and wonderful and absolutely right. 6 months after first contact, Jake and Liz stood at the newly built Earth Embassy to the Galactic Collective. The building was a blend of human and alien architecture, a symbol of cooperation. Are you nervous? Liz asked. Her patterns were excited gold. Terrified, Jake admitted. I'm just a paramedic. Now I'm supposed to help represent my entire species. You are not just a paramedic, Liz said firmly. You are the human who stayed calm when others would panic, who helped when others would hide, who loved when others would fear. You are exactly the right person for this job. We're really doing this, Jake said. Humans and aliens, working together, building something new. We are, Liz agreed. She took his hand, their now familiar gesture. And it will be difficult. There will be misunderstandings, mistakes, conflicts, but there will also be discoveries, friendships, and love. Like us. Like us, Jake echoed. The Earth delegation arrived along with representatives from dozens of collective species. Dr. Velrith was there, now serving as an advisor on human-Crix relations. Captain Thalos came, bringing official documents. Even Jake's family attended, his niece wearing her flower crown. As the ceremony began, Jake looked around at the crowd, humans and aliens standing together, talking, laughing, learning. It was messy and chaotic and absolutely beautiful. Liz squeezed his hand, her patterns warm gold and silver. What are you thinking? She asked. I'm thinking about how this all started, Jake said. They abducted me for study. They wanted to understand humans by observing one person. But instead, we ended up understanding each other. You learned that humans are more than predators. I learned that aliens can be kind and curious and loving. Your father learned that fear is not the same as wisdom. And what is the lesson in all of that? Liz asked. Jake smiled at her. At this incredible being from another world who had somehow become the most important person in his life. The lesson is that connection is stronger than fear, he said. That love can happen anywhere, even between a human and an alien on a ship in deep space. That we're all just people trying to understand each other. And that's enough. That's always enough. The ceremony began, marking Earth's official entry into the Galactic Collective. Humanity took its first real step into the larger universe. There would be challenges ahead, misunderstandings, conflicts. But there would also be friendships, partnerships, and the kind of understanding that only comes from truly seeing each other. Jake Morrison, the human they abducted for study, stood at the center of it all, holding hands with the scientist's daughter, who wouldn't stop flirting with him, both of them smiling as Earth and the stars finally came together. And in that moment, surrounded by humans and aliens, by family and friends, by the familiar and the impossibly strange, Jake knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. Home had never been just a place. Home was connection. Home was understanding. Home was love that crossed the vastness of space to find him in a cell on an alien ship. Home was Lys's hand in his, and the future stretching ahead of them, bright and unknown and full of possibilities.